Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping in today. I'm back with another new layout for the Paige Evans design team, and I'm using Bungalow Lane again. And I'm going to use this paper. I have not used this paper yet. It's very bright, very busy, very colorful. It's paper number 4, and I decided I wanted to use it as a background design element in some way, shape, or form. And sometimes I like to do a cut file when I have a busy paper like this. So I went through all of Paige's cut files. She has so many to choose from now. And this is one of her older ones. It's a background cut file called Rainbows Background. And I like it because you can use it as rainbows, you can use it as scallops, you know, the possibilities are endless. And so I'm going to use thick white cardstock as the background, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I don't want to use the entire thing. I had an idea of using maybe the top half of it, so I'm trying to cut it. And obviously you can see there that it's a little bit smaller than my background paper. So I'm going to do some cutting and some pasting here. I don't want it to be even. I haven't even chosen my photos yet. So I'm not even sure, you know, we're just in the playing around phase. This is kind of just a, hey, let's see if this is even going to work situation at the moment. So I'm just moving it around, seeing what I think I could do with it. And I kind of, like I said, I kind of copied and pasted, and I'm going to glue some more pieces of it together. And I want to run it off the page on the right and the top. So I'm going to trim off the edge there and just see how it looks. I kind of like that. Now I am going to do some mixed media behind it and below it. So before I glue anything down, I'm going to come in with some gesso. So this is the Art Basics Finnabair gesso. It's clear, and I like to use a 2-inch silicone brush there to scrape it and smooth it down, but you could use whatever it takes. You could use an old gift card or a regular brush, whatever. I decided to go with 2 black and white photos here because I'm going to have so much color going on. I just did not have the perfect photos to complement all of these colors. And so when that happens, I just go with black and white. And there was nothing special in the photos that I felt like had to be in color. You know, some photos, you definitely want to print those in color. Some of them, it really doesn't matter. So these, it really didn't matter. They look good either way. But like I said, I'm going to kind of doctor this up and kind of fix it to where it's comes a little bit lower on the left side, because I'm going to kind of put my photos in the middle over to the left a little bit, but I'll explain that later. Now, when you look at that paper, it's got a ton of yellow golden color and a lot of reddish orangey tones. And so I decided to go with yellow on the background. So this looks really yellow on my lights here, but it's it's not as yellow in person. But I pulled out some shimmers. I've got 2 different colors that I'm going to work with here. I've got Vibes Mustard Seed, and then I've got Vibes Glorious Day. The Mustard Seed is more yellow and the Glorious Day is more gold. So I'm just going to kind of spray those together, add some water, let the paper kind of turn and tilt, let the color run. And then this one here is one of the original Shimmers mixtures or formulas called Shimmers, and it's called Christmas Cheer. And it's got a lot of glittery, sparkly goodness in it. The paint is thicker, so you use a brush for that. That's why it's in the little pots. But whenever this is dry, I'm going to show you here in just a little bit. You'll be able to see the difference in how these different paints dry. And right now this looks like a hot mess, but I promise it's going to work. I don't want to cover up all the white. I just want to have a lot of color kind of behind the open spots of the cut file, and then kind of cascading down below it that you're going to be able to see behind and around the photos. And this looks like a lot, but once you add everything back on top of it, it's going to completely change everything. So... And this is a good way to get a bunch of color on your background. Just spray some down, maybe add a little bit of water or not, just depends on how much you spray, And then just move your paper around. Let it run, let it blend, let it drip. And the gesso is a key element into allowing that to happen so nicely. And this is another cool technique. I love to kind of lighten things up and add a marbly effect by splattering on some white acrylic paint. That's all that is just white acrylic craft paint. Add a little bit of water to it to dilute it a little bit, and then just splatter it down onto the wet paint, and it kind of spreads out and creates these wonky circles of blobby color. I love that. And I love how that looks. You see that really shimmery gold? That's the Christmas cheer. That's the shimmers in the little pot. It's really glittery. And I did splatter some more of that around on top of the white, but I love that. So I let that dry, and then we're going to start to play around with everything and see how it looks. And so far, I really like that. I like how the background is playing on the colors in the scallops. So I know that that's where that's going to go. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. I'm using Scotch tacky glue in my little bottle there. And I'm just going to go ahead and add glue to all of these little rainbows here because I want this to be glued down flat so it's part of the background. And my paper's not 100% flat because, you know, when you start to add a lot of water and liquid to it, it's going to warp a little bit. It's paper. It happens. But once this is dry, I do let it sit overnight underneath some really heavy paper pads, so it flattens out pretty nicely. I rarely ever make one layout completely in one sitting anyway. I think I worked on this for 3 days, a little bit at a time, so I have plenty of time for it to dry and flatten out so it's not so warpy. But, you know, after doing mixed media over the years, for many years, I've learned that, you know, the paper's going to warp. And if that's something that you don't like, you know, maybe just don't add a lot of water. But I'm okay with it. It's not a big deal to me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start to layer up the photos here. For now, I'm just going to layer a little bit of white tissue paper behind it. And this isn't any special tissue paper. It's just regular old white tissue paper that you would use in a gift or a gift bag. And I like it because it's subtle. I like that it can be messy and uneven and ripped and torn. And it's not something that stands out, but it's just one of those small details that kind of help the photo stand out a little bit more without you really realizing it. So once I got that done, I decided that I did want to pull in a little bit of that reddish, that's not a word. Oh, geez. Reddish, orangey. Orangey's not a word either, but I'm going to go with it. Sounds better than reddishy. Wow, that's a first. Orange/red tone. And so I'm going to use more shimmers, and I'm going to be very intentional with where I put it. I want it to be kind of peeking out from underneath into the side of the photo like you see there. This color is, let me see, I used a couple. Vibes Mango Tango, Colorings Peachy Keen, and then a little dab of a pink color called Spritz Ruby. I just kind of kept adding until I got it to look like that orange-red color that's in the paper. And, you know, this is definitely a different color scheme for me. This is not something that I typically use. I'm really not a red person, but I wanted to do something different. And so I just went with what was in the paper. And there's also some light blue in the paper that I'm going to play off of in just a little bit once I get further into the layout. But I'm going to put the photos right there. If you see the photo on the left, she is looking toward the right. And so I'm going to put that photo on the left so it looks like she is looking at the other photo. I don't know. I'm kind of picky about where I place my photos on the paper. I like to always have my photos looking at something, or looking across the page, or you know, above the page, below the page. It looks like they're looking at something. I know that's weird, but it's just a quirk I have. So yeah, I keep bringing the photos back to just kind of see how it looks at the moment. And then once that's all dry, I'm going to come back in with some more of the white. This time I'm just going to add white splatters all over everything. And the white splatters is a good way to get a little bit of a weathered effect. And it depends on if you just let it dry and let it sit and dry, it's going to be that crisp white. But if you want it to look kind of faded and hazy, do this. Get a napkin or some paper towels and roll it right over it, and it's going to dab it up, and it's going to make it look less white. It's just going to give it that cloudy effect. So it all depends on a lot of, you know, how long it sits there versus do you just let it dry by itself or do you dab some of it up? It just depends on the look you're going for and what you want it to look like in the end. So I'm just going to keep going, keep splattering. I get obsessed sometimes with the white splatters. I just love that effect. But yeah. And again, it's just a little detail in the end that I think makes a big difference. See how the photo on the left, she's looking at the photo on the right. Yep, so she has something to look at. Call me weird, I don't know. It's just one of my things. So I pulled out a lot of things that match. I went through all the embellishments in Bungalow Lane, and I pulled out basically all the flowers that were pink or that reddish, orangey color, or blue. And I'm just playing around. We're just going to start to push these flowers around and see what looks good where, what matches, what doesn't, what's too much. I don't like that that light blue big flower or big leaf cluster. So I'm going to remove. I like it, but not where it was is what I meant. So I'm going to take that off. Start to work in some of these smaller flowers, some of the ephemera die cuts. I'm going to use that little epoxy puffy sticker as part of the title. I'm going to go through the 8-page sticker book and pull things and just kind of push it around and see what looks good. I don't want to cover up all that mixed media down at the bottom. Some of it is going to get covered up, but I don't want it to be completely, you know, gone. I got the chipboard stickers out. I found this blue tag. This is where I'm going to start to pull in some of the light blue colors. And this is a tag from paper number 22. So I'm just going to cut it up and use it as a layer. I'm going to put this behind the photos. And even though I've already added some adhesive foam, it's okay. I think this kind of helps separate the photos from that busy background and makes them stand out a little bit more. I did want to add some light blue thread. So I'm going to mix two colors together because the blue that I had is really light. So I wanted to darken it up slightly. So I'm going to mix two colors of blue and kind of have this cascading down underneath that big flower right there. And I'm glad I did this because I really wasn't thinking light blue when I started this layout. I was thinking more of yellow and red. But I feel like the light blue brings it home in the end. I'm going to pull apart one of these layered flower stickers to use. Just not quite sure where. I'm trying to decide if I want to add things to the sides of the photos or leave it blank. Just not sure yet. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down those blue layers. And sorry my lighting keeps changing. It was a weird day when I was filming this part of the layout with the sun. It kept coming in and out, and it affects my lighting sometimes. Now I do want to use this little circle die cut that says Make Happiness because it matched perfectly. It had all the colors in it, and I really wanted to use it in the center of the two photos, because if you see where her head is in both photos, there's some empty area, and that little circle just fits in that little nook right there. But I didn't want to crowd the photos. I want to give her room to breathe, and I don't want to busy it up because the background is really busy. And I want to layer that little happiness and sunshine yellow banner piece down at the bottom on top of the photo at the very bottom. So I kind of hesitated at first. I thought, well, am I putting too much stuff on top of the photos? Because I don't want it to be so busy that you lose the photo, you know? I mean, that's the whole point, is to showcase your photos. And so I don't want to crowd the photo to where, you know, sometimes you look at a layout and there's just so much stuff going on. It's like you have to search for the photo, you know, it's like, where's the picture? I can't see the photos for all the stuff. And so I don't want it to get that busy, but I feel like that's the perfect spot for that circle. So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. I feel like there's still some space on both sides of her head in both pictures. So she has some room. And I'm going to make sure I don't put anything else on top of the photos there. So I feel like that's plenty. You still see her face. You still see that she's sitting by the pool holding her little cup. And yeah. Now I have to figure out a way to use this chipboard frame somehow because it matches perfectly. Look at it. It has the exact same colors as that background paper. Because if I don't use it on this layout, will I ever use it? So yeah, we're going to cut it up, peel off some of the chipboard so it's not as thick, and I'm going to wedge it underneath the photos here. We're going to make it work some way, somehow. And this is another example. I know I say this a lot lately, but you know, just because that is a frame, it's a square floral frame, you do not have to use it as a square frame. If you only want to use a piece of it, cut it up. That's what I did. Cut it up and just use the parts that you want to use, you know. I spent years agonizing over embellishments because I didn't want to use it because the whole thing didn't match what I was doing, or it didn't fit, or it just didn't go. And then I finally just gave myself permission to cut it up. You know, it's okay. You can cut it up. Who's going to come tell you you shouldn't have done that? Nobody. If you want to just use the corner of it, then do that. That's what I did, and it works. And then I wanted to add some smaller flowers, so I went through the pattern papers again and found paper number 14. And I'm just going to fussy cut out some of these little light red / coral colored flowers and scatter them around. Because I think I've pretty much used all of the smaller flowers from the die cuts and the sticker sheets and things. And I am going to use foam to pop those up. That's what I was showing you there. Glue those down, and the flowers are just going to kind of come down underneath to a point underneath the photos there toward the bottom of the page. And as I started looking, I realized I need some more blue down at the bottom. Blue is what's missing. So I pulled out a couple punches and decided on my 1-inch circle punch, and I'm going to make a banner. This is the easiest, quickest way to make a little banner. Punch some circles, cut them in half. There you go, instant banner. So this blue paper is actually the back side of paper number 4, which is the one that I used for the cut file. This is the B side of it. So it's a light blue floral. I'm going to kind of play around with it. And then I pulled out a piece of twine, and you can use embroidery thread or whatever. And I'm going to glue these little half circles down and make a little banner. And this is really easy to do. I feel like the possibilities are endless because you could do multiple papers and do multiple colors. You could do a bigger circle punch and make a big banner. And it gives it instant dimension because you're gluing it to this, this twine or this thread that's going to instantly kind of stand up off the page. And look how cute it is. You could make multiples of these and drape them across your background and just make a big old banner layout. I've done that a few times over the years. So this is going to be just down at the bottom, so I'm going to kind of cut it to where I've got a couple of different little loops of the banner going over here on the right side, and then a little bit on the left. And this is perfect because, you know, it was something that wasn't flowers, but something easy that I could that I could make pretty quickly, and it makes such a big impact, I think. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and you wind up not being able to see the twine that I used, but it's okay. Sometimes I want the little edges to curl around so it looks like, you know, the banner is hanging, but in this instance, I don't think it really mattered. I just wanted something kind of going across the page in a fun little way and bring that blue color down to the bottom. And I didn't want it touching the scallops, because I wanted some space in between that and the banner to kind of give you some breathing room because, you know, like I said, I want to avoid it being so busy that there's just too much going on. And I really like how that looked. I don't even know where that idea came from. I just was like, I need something blue down there. Let's make a banner. I don't know. Random ideas just pop into my head sometimes, and I'm just going to leave it with the two banners on both sides there. And I do wind up trimming it off on the other side too once it's dry. And I'm going to use this chipboard butterfly because it's blue and it matches. I'm going to thin it out a little bit by peeling off some of the layers and then trimming off some of the white border. Sometimes the white borders around embellishments just make it stand out a little bit too much for my taste. So I trim it off. And then, yeah, we're just going to glue it down. I have to use it. It matches. It's light blue. It's perfect. Then I decided, let's splatter some blue paint. I hadn't used blue on the background yet, and I'm just going to use it for splatters. And this is another Shimmers, surprise. And it's a Creamies, and it's called For Sure. And, yeah, it's the perfect blue. It matches that light blue perfectly. I always seem to have just the right shade of shimmers to match what I'm going for. So that worked out really nicely. And I just splattered some blue down. And I think the blue makes such a big difference. I think it balances out the yellows and the reds. And it's just such a different color scheme for me, you know. I'm usually more of a pink girl, not a red girl. But sometimes the paper just calls for it. And I just went with it. I did want to kind of add a little bit of white gesso to some of the things, just to kind of soften them up a little bit. Give them, I know I keep saying that weathered effect or that hazy effect, but I love that. It just makes things that are so perfectly bright and crisp. It just kind of gives them a little bit of interest and not so perfect. But yeah, this is what I've got so far. You can see the dimension there. The little banners turned out really cute. Another way, if you wanted the banners to stand out even more, is you could add some adhesive foam under those. I did not, but I just glued down the threads. So you can see there that the little actual circles kind of curl up off the page to look like they're blowing in the breeze. Yeah, we're almost finished. Last thing I'm going to do is add some journaling down at the bottom here. I use my pencil to make sure my lines are straight, and I'm going to use my metallic gold pen, and then I believe that's it. That's it. That's the final layout. I really like how this turned out. I was surprised because this color scheme kind of scared me, but I think it turned out really pretty, something different. Yeah, it's just kind of some random things, you know, a random background, a random banner, and some flowers, but it works. I don't know. I think it's fun. I think it's bright. It's summery. And I think it's cute. Here's all the detail shots. I took a lot of those. I hope this gives you some ideas to try. I hope it inspired you in some way. I'm going to link down below all the stuff that I used. And yeah, I hope to see you again in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great week.